I'm always curious to discover some new trading tools. I like to look at different screeners, I like to look at what's on the market, and I've found a very good screener that I actually wanted to share with you. Because sometimes it's kinda hard to have some inspiration for new trade ideas. Sometimes I need to look at what other people are trading so as to have some new ideas, and screeners can be a really good source of trading ideas. That's why I wanted to share this screener with you, because if you sometimes lack some inspiration, or if you don't know what to trade, or you'd like to find maybe some new trading opportunities, screeners can be a really good source of information, and I've found actually a very good one that I wanted to share with you today. But before diving into this video, if at any point you find this video helpful or interesting and you actually like the screener that you see, don't hesitate to subscribe to my channel and liking this video. It's the best way to let me know after that in my analytics which videos you like to see more of and which videos are you actually liking. I'm going to get into the screener directly, but first of all, it's very important to understand that a screener is by no means something that is going to replace your trading. It's only there as a tool to give you maybe some inspiration if you lack some inspiration sometimes. And it's very important to understand that screeners are only as good as your methodology, meaning that if you're struggling, for example, to already make money and you try to develop your methodology, screeners are not going to be that helpful. You first of all really need to develop your methodology, you need to be able to make money by yourself, and then after that screeners are going to be very helpful because they're going to give you new ideas. But as I said, they're only as helpful as your methodology. So if you're still trying to find out how you can trade options and try to make some positive returns, hopefully, you know that I've made plenty of videos on the different strategies that I personally use, that I personally like. For example, I've made a video on the wheel strategy, I've also made a video on the poor man's covered call, or I describe how I trade in my own option portfolio. So if you want to check all of the videos, I'll put the links of those videos in the description of this video. Now that said, now that you have some resources on which strategies I personally like to trade, let's go directly into that screener that I wanted to share with you in this video. So the website that I wanted to show you is called Optionistics. So obviously you'll find the link of this website in the description of the video. Just click on it, it will be just located down below, and you will arrive on that website. So that website basically has a lot of tools available. There is a free version and there is also a paid version. Personally, I only use the free version because, as I said, I really use screeners as, an idea generation tool. I don't necessarily need to have the paying version, but if you want to have the paid version, I mean, it's completely free, up to you. What I want to show you on that website is especially the stock and option screener, and there are more tools that I will show you just after because I think that they're still worth noting, but for the moment, let's stick to the screener itself. So as you can see, this is the page that we have. In this area, we have the different filters, and in this area where you see all of the stocks, those are the results. So first of all, let's imagine that we wanted to find, let's say, good opportunities, good stocks, so you can sell some naked puts on those stocks. How would you find those ideas? So to find the screener that is going to help you find some option plays, just go here and down below and click on the screener where it's written option spreads. When you click on it, you're going to arrive in the option spread screener. And once again, you can see that there are a lot of filters, and once again, you have the results below. What's interesting here, and let's imagine that we wanted to, for example, scan the market to find some good opportunities to sell some puts on. Well, in that case, we would go in the drop down menu, and let's say that we click on expensive puts. We would want, for example, to click on expensive puts and see that screener, because the thing is, when you sell options, you obviously want to sell expensive options because you want the price of those options to go down. That's how you're going to make a profit. So by clicking on that screener for expensive puts, it's going to show you some expensive puts as it is, and maybe some good opportunities for you to sell some puts on, so you can have maybe some profits here. So I'm going to run you through the different filters so you can see how it works. So the first filter that you have is the symbol. So if you want to target, let's say, one specific symbol and you like to see the different options, then you can do that. Personally, I'm not going to use that filter because I think that goes against the purpose of using a screener. You want to use a screener so you can have many different stock ideas on which you could trade options on. Then you have the stock price, which is the second filter for that screener. So personally, I like to stick to stocks that are priced around $20 to $50. This is really my sweet spot in terms of stocks that I like to trade. I don't necessarily like to trade very expensive stocks like Amazon. I prefer to stick to cheaper stocks around $30, $40. I think it's a very sweet spot of mine. By the way, I also made a watch list in my previous video where I shared the watch list that I actually use so as to trade, where stocks are priced around $30, $40, which is really good also if you have a small account. And if you want to have that watch list, I'll also put the link in the description of this video. There'll be a lot of links, but hopefully you can find whatever you want. Then you have the stock volume. So for this, I think it's very important to always choose very liquid stocks and liquid options. And personally, I tend to stick to stocks that have at least 5 million shares traded per day. So in that case, you would click, for example, on that thing, you would drag it so as to bring it to, let's say, 5 million. So you see that now the screener is going to show stocks having a volume of 5 million shares traded a day minimum. So it's going to really be the minimum. Then we go into the short leg window that you can find here. First, we're going to talk about the leg volume. So the leg volume is really important because you always, as I said for the stock, you always want to have liquidity wherever you go. So as much as we have now some good volume for the stocks, meaning 5 million shares traded per day, we also want to have good volume on the options so you can have a fair price when you enter the trade and when you exit the trade. So personally, in terms of volume, I like to stick to at least 200, maybe not 1,000, that's already that's already a very good number, but at least 200 in terms of volume for the options that I want to trade. That assures me that there is enough liquidity so I can enter the trade and get out of a trade at a fair price and hopefully with my profits. Then comes the moneyness. So the moneyness is basically how at the money or how in the money you want the results to be. So in that case, because we want to sell options, so hopefully to buy them back at a lower price and so make a profit, I usually, and that's like this for most of the people that sell options, we tend to focus on out the money options and we want the option to stay out the money. So we're going to focus on out the money options. So to find out the money options, you're going to go into the negative number for puts compared to calls, where I will show you after that if we're looking for calls to sell, then the moneyness bar, we're going to move it into the positive. To find out the money options for puts, you're going to have to drag it into the negative numbers. Here you see that it's between -4 and 0. 0 being the out the money option and -4 for the put being the out the money options. Then there is the expiration that we have. So in that case, let's say that we focus, for example, on the June, July expiration. So it's going to be June or July. Then if we click on the button Go, it's going to now filter everything and find the stocks that are corresponding all of those criteria. So if we click on Go, now it actualized and now you can see that there are plenty of results. There are like all of those as results, and there are 3 pages of results. You can really filter them by whatever you want. For example, if you want to filter them by, let's say, the name of the stock, well, you're going to see that there are plenty of different results, and the first one is American Airlines. It's actually a stock that I very much like to trade, and I've been trading it a lot since the beginning of 2021, so it's quite funny that it's the first stock that is shown. Let's say, for example, that we just look at one result that just goes out of this screener so as to show you some examples of what you can actually do. So as I said, the first result is American Airlines. They basically tell us that they're looking at the 23 strike, the put 23 strike, and it costs $2.36, and it has a very good volume, and the return on investment, if your put was actually called, would be of 7%. So let's go into the Testworks platform and let's see about selling the 23 puts. So now we are in the June 18, 2021 expiration for the stock American Airlines. So you see that I already have actually sold the put credit spread on American Airlines. You can see here my position, meaning that I have shorted the 21 strike and I bought the 16 strike, which makes a put credit spread. And here they told us basically that the 23 strike would correspond our filters. So you see that this would correspond to that particular strike. However, you see that it's still an in the money strike. Actually, it's like very slightly in the money. And personally, I think it's better if we focus on only out the money strikes. So maybe we can modify our filter to only focus on out the money strikes and not on at the money strikes, because here I think that they consider the 23 strike to be the at the money strike. So if we come back in our platform and you only want to see at the money strikes that are being shown, then you can just move the moneyness here in that window. You can just move the moneyness to be, for example, at -1, between -4 and -1, and it's only going to show you at the money strikes normally, at least. So you see that we have once again some results, and for example, we see that there is United States Steel Corporation that you can see here. And let's say that we focus on the 23 put. Once again, they said that this would be a good result. Let's go into the Testworks platform to check that. So for example, here, that would correspond to this strike for the 23 put, and if we sell it, we would collect, for example, 64 cents, and that, why not? You know, that can be a good trade. So you see that it can be quite nice. This screener just basically tells you some recommendations of puts that you could potentially sell, and that can be quite nice to take some ideas from that. However, there are plenty of different ways to use this screener. For example, if you like to filter it by the number of days to expiration, you absolutely can. Here you see that I click and it changes between the July expiration and the June expiration. But after that, you can also filter by the strike to see the higher strike or to see maybe the lower strike, or you can also filter it by price, meaning that you can focus on the puts that are the most expensive, or you could focus on the puts that are the least expensive. Then you can also filter by the volume or the time value percentage compared to the stock, or the implied volatility, or the return on investment, which I think is also very interesting. If you really want to focus on the return on investment and really be capital efficient, maybe use the return on investment column to check that. And there is also some charts. If we click, for example, in the United States Steel Corporation, you see that there is a small button right there. If we click on it, it's going to give us a chart where basically it gives you some more information, which I think is also quite interesting because all of this, remember that it's all free. The only thing about your free account is that it's going to be delayed data, but in the end, honestly, you don't really mind because you just want to have some stock ideas. Then you can put them in your watch list if you want, and you know, you can just have them for later. And that's, I think, quite nice to have all of those different tools available. But as I said, there's not only like puts that you can actually screen for. If we go back in the drop down button, you see that there's so many different strategies that you could screen for. I mean, there's plenty of things. If we go now into the expensive call screener, then in that case, now we're going to focus on calls. And as I said, you're going to move the moneyness into the positives so as to see the add the money call options. And once again, we're going to put all the filters that I had put before. So let's say that stock between $25 and $40, stock volume 5 million max, leg volume 200 volume minimum, moneyness, and once again we click on go. And once again we have plenty of different results, and let's take for example Carnival Cruises. Once again, it's a stock that I've been trading a lot in 2021, and for example they said the 30 call, and that would be for example a good call to sell because it's quite expensive, and you can see all of the different metrics. The return on investment if called would be of 16, almost 17%. You see that it has a good volume, so let's check that into Tastyworks. Now I'm in the June 18 expiration for Carnival Cruises, and you see that the 30 call strike would be this line, and if you for example sell it, you would collect 77 cents of credit. And honestly, I think it's a good deal. Like it could be a good trade to take. So once again, plenty of opportunities. And the way I personally use this screener is that if I see a stock that I've never traded before, that is liquid, that has liquid options, that I see is really fitting all my criteria that I like to trade, well, I'm going to put it in my watch list so I can save it for later, and I have another stock to trade if I don't have any ideas. Because that's really how I consider screeners, option screeners. I don't necessarily going to take exactly the trade that they mention. I mean, I could, and you absolutely could, but I think it's also very useful to use it as an idea generation tool, meaning that you discover a new stock, then you just put it in your watch list and you save it for later so you can trade it now from now on, and now you have some new potential trades that you could make with that trade. That's really how I personally use it. But it's not the only tool available on that website. There are plenty of other different tools that you could use. Let me show you some option calculator and some probability calculators too. So for example, here I clicked on option calculator down below. I don't know if you can see within that green rectangle, and now it brings me to this tab, meaning that now you can also start analyzing the profit and loss calculator for the option that you want and see how it would behave, where is your break-even point, and I think it can be quite useful. But there is one tool that I really like and I really want to show you. It's called the probability calculator, because we tend to forget that options are very much based on probabilities, and honestly it's just about probabilities most of the time, and it's very useful to be able to see that visually. So let me show you a tool that exists on Optionistics and let me walk you through it. So if you click on the probability calculator that is down below, then you're going to arrive on that page. What does that mean? Well, it's going to help you understand what are the probabilities of, for example, seeing a stock staying within a certain range or going out of that range. So you can also visually see what are the odds of profit for you when you place a trade. For example, you're going to choose like the expiration that you want. So let's say June 18th. And then after that, we're going to look at enter lower and upper bound. So meaning that we're going to enter, for example, a range, and we're going to see the odds of the stock staying within that range and outside of that range. So if we look at, for example, the graph, for example, for United States Steel Corporation, what are the odds, let's say, of the stock staying between, let's say, $30 and, if I move that thing, and let's say $20? What are the odds? Well, with that tool, you can actually know what are the odds of seeing United States Steel Corporation staying between $20 and $30 before June expiration, which can be quite interesting. So let's see what are the results. So you see that in the filters enter lower and upper bound, I've entered the strike 20 and I entered the strike 30. You see that I also have the June 18, 2021 expiration, and I just literally changed those things. And also you have the symbol here to fill. Then when you click on compute, it's going to give you the probability of staying within the bound and outside your range. Now we have the graph that shows how likely it is that X is going to stay within my range or outside my range. For example, the probability that X is going to stay below 20, below the 20 strike, is of 35%. You can see here. Then the probability of X staying within my range, staying between $20 and $30 per share, is of 52%. You can see it here. And the probability of seeing X going above the 30 strike at expiration is of 11.89%. And you can see a visual representation of that just below. So you can see that it's actually very useful, because if you want to get, a bit acculturated to the probability concepts and you don't really know how it works, you can just use that tool that is very much user friendly, and you can really use it for yourself to see what are the odds of, for example, seeing a stock going above a certain price or going below a certain price. I mean, it can really be useful, especially for those who like to sell, for example, short strangles. You can really see that quickly. Another example, I've taken the stock Electronic Arts. What are the odds, let's say, of seeing, for example, Electronic Arts staying between, I don't know, let's say the 130 strike and the 150 strike before the June 18 expiration? So once again, we would fill in, for example, EA. And once again here, it's going to load the data for the symbol. And we said that the lower bound would be the 130 strike and the upper bound would be the 150 strike. So what are the odds of seeing, for example, Electronic Arts staying within that range and outside that range? So if we click on compute, and I forgot to put the expiration, so it's going to work better, because now I'm just realizing that it was a bit of a weird result. So now if we click again on compute, after you've put the right expiration, you can see that the odds of seeing, for example, Electronic Arts staying within your range, between the 130 strike and the 150 strike, is of 51%. You almost have one chance out of two to see Electronic Arts staying within that range. And then the odds of seeing Electronic Arts staying below $130 per share between the June 18 expiration is of 21%. And for the upper bound, it has 27% chance of staying above $150 per share. So you can see that it's very interesting. Personally, I think that's very cool to have this type of tool available for free on top of that. I mean, it's really amazing, and honestly, I really encourage you to use that just for your own, understanding of probabilities and how it actually all works, and see, what are the odds of you actually being right. And honestly, using probabilities that way, and this is something that is available on the Tastyworks platform, for example, this is something that is really useful when you start looking at your trades from a probability standpoint. You start looking at your trades to see what are the odds of me being right, what are the odds of me being wrong. That can be really useful to see that. I hope you find this video interesting, where I show you, for example, the screener and show you how it works, and also the different tools that are available, not only the screener but also the option profit calculator, but also the probability calculator. I mean, I think it's really interesting to have all of those different tools available, especially for free. If you enjoyed that video, don't hesitate to subscribe to my channel and liking this video. As I said, it's really the best support you can give me, and that helps me know what type of videos you'd like to see more of. Please make good and informed decisions. I'll see you in the next video, and in the meantime, I wish you all the best.